Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Dario here with another Options and Play video update. So we're getting into kind of the heart of earnings season, and I guess I'll spend another video going over some of the things I'm seeing, um, some of the patterns, uh, or maybe not patterns, but some of the early trends, right? So some of the things, whether it's fundamental, technical, option-wise. I'll try to put together some commentary on that. Um, what I want to talk about today is something I've talked about in the past, also some things we've covered a few times, um, over like the last year and a half. It's like knowing when to walk away from a trade. All right, and um, if you follow me and you follow those earnings on the radar videos I put together on Friday, you know that I like to have a game plan in place several days before companies report, right? So I like to do the work. I like to look at the actual technical setup, the option setup, like the earnings, like from the previous couple quarters. So I like putting the work in because it gives me confidence. I can kind of lay out my strategy, what I want to do, kind of like put it on the calendar, and then I just kind of keep an eye on it, right? Um, and that helps me in a lot of regards. But what it does, it kind of opens up the potential for the stock to have like a kind of like a material move prior or right before and kind of just completely change everything, right? So like that game plan I had, that strategy I was looking at could be completely altered. And sometimes, as much as like I really loved the setup, right? Like if things change, you got to know when to walk away, right? Like it's like you don't want to really ever get in the habit of like chasing ideas or like forcing your opinions on a stock, right, or on a trade. So just kind of quickly, like two things that are kind of like my criteria for um, when I would be more likely to like walk away from like an idea, right? So and both more or less revolve around like the technical setup, not necessarily the option pricing, because I feel like the option prices won't move too much. That would really discourage me because then I could always look at maybe getting a risk down with like spreads or something along those lines, right? Um, so technically, right, there's basically two things. So if a stock, so like Xilinx is one I was looking at this week, and while it hasn't technically broke, so what I was looking at was the stock was pushing up to the top of like this multi-month downtrend. Chips were moving around. The option pricing seemed decent on Xilinx compared to what it averaged over the last 3 to 4 quarters, and I thought that there was some room. Now, you can see that it still hasn't broken the trend, but what it has done is moved more than like 50% of what the options were pricing in for the earnings report, right? So the day of, if I see the stock move greater than 50% of what they were pricing in, like for earnings that day or that week, that's like a major like kind of like red flag for me, like a warning sign that even if I still think that the technical pattern might hold, um, if it has that type of move, that really makes me cautious. All right, so Xilinx, just to give a little bit of background, was pricing in about anywhere from like 7.25 to maybe like 750. Today it's up over 4, right? So it's up over 50% what they were pricing in for like the remainder of the week through earnings. Okay, and again, the technical, it's bumping up into the top of this technical monthly downtrend, and I still think that there's potential, but some of this could be pulled forward, right? And the expectations could have really shifted with like the big move in the stock. So when I see a stock move greater than 50% of what they were pricing in for earnings, like the day of earnings, so prior to those numbers coming out, that's a major red flag, and that's what I'm thinking about walking away from the trade idea. All right. Second thing is again kind of technical. So this actually didn't happen, but I mean just hypothetically. So like Delta coming into like the week, I was looking at the technical setup saying, you know, Delta reports had a really tight pennant that was forming, right? Like a real like ultra tight pennant that it seemed like if it was particularly good, particularly bad, and it broke the pennant, that it could have a pretty substantial move, right? Just kind of like one of those patterns that set up well for a volatility strategy. Now, again, it didn't work out this way, but just hypothetically, if this breakdown had occurred on the day of earnings, right? So like the day, the day prior, so like prior to them reporting, better way to say it. So if this breakdown had occurred prior to them reporting, then that pattern is already starting to resolve, and like that to me, like that wouldn't hold, right? The volatility strategy was looking for a resolution of the pattern, and if the consolidation in the pattern starts to resolve prior to those numbers coming out, then like the idea of a volatility strategy is a little bit less appealing to me, right? So red flag, like I'm walking away from like that type of idea because what I was looking at and the reason I wanted to get involved no longer really stands, right? Like, yes, it could have more room to the downside, but the specific reason that I was looking at it, saying that the option prices appeared low compared to the potential of a break of the pattern, no longer stands. So, if I see the pattern start to move, right? So in this case, it's breaking down. So like what I wanted was like this really tight consolidation into earnings, and when I see like the pattern starting to break and the consolidation starting to resolve, that's a red flag. So I'm walking away from the idea, right? So I really wanted to highlight this because as we get into earnings season, no matter how much of a plan I have, things change, right? And sometimes I just make the decision to walk away from ideas. And if you see me doing that, um, more often than not, it's because of one of these two reasons. There might be other circumstances, but the majority of the time, if I'm walking away from an idea, it's probably for one of these two reasons. Either has a too big of a move the day of, or the pattern I was really interested in no longer stands. All right. So if you like these videos and you're looking for more option trade ideas or maybe some more earnings trade ideas, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options to play. Have a safe night, have a healthy night, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.